Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another week of At Ping. We've got a video submission. Let's listen to this one first.
Hey, what's going on, Ping? I just wanted to say I really enjoy the At Ping segment you do every week, and I got a question for you this one. So my question is, do you think there's a double standard for certain riders? Just based on the way fans reacted to the Friese and Craig incident and the Lawrence and Forkner one, it kind of seems to me that everyone's really quick to give Jet a free pass because he was quote-unquote charging hard through the pack, trying to salvage the win, and it was all the tough block's fault. Nothing to do with him. Yet, on the other hand, everyone says Friese, he's such a dangerous rider, he should lose his pro license or retire, all because he just made a bad decision on a line choice. Now, in my opinion, Jet should be held accountable for his riding in the same way Friese was. He was in a hurry, and quite frankly, he was out of control at times, especially in the whoops right before the corner. That's a great example of his adolescent mind on display, and that really caused him to make some poor decisions. Christian Craig, on the other hand, he's been able to come from dead last through the pack, and he did that twice this year without managing to tangle up with other riders and hurt them. So it is possible to charge through the pack and not collide with other riders. And I understand Friese, he's got a bad reputation. And yeah, he's had some questionable moves in the past, but in my opinion, you can't say that one guy shouldn't be allowed to race anymore, while the other guy, oh, it's not his fault, we'll just give him a free pass, he's a good person. As a former pro racer, what do you make of both guys in those moves, and is it right to say one guy is worse than the other, or did they just both make the same mistake, and should they be held to the same level of accountability?
All right, so thanks for sending in a video. I always appreciate that, and you make a really good point here. And I got to go back to the incident with Craig and Friese. In my opinion, was not all the drama that it looked like. When I first saw it, I was like, oh man, Friese blew him out of that turn. But when you go back and you watch it from other angles and you really study that incident, Friese had the inside. Craig tried to go around the outside of him, third, fourth gear, full throttle, which you've got to have, especially when you're the points leader, you're clearly the fastest guy on the track. You got to have a little bit of self-awareness to go, this is Vince Friese. He's got a history of punting people off the track. Maybe I should bide my time here a little bit and check up and find a spot where I can get him. The whoops. He was going to go by him in the whoops. So I think that it was bad tact on Christian's part. And when Friese went into that corner, he hit the brakes. Like, he wasn't trying to take him out. He was just going for that line. And by the time he realized Craig wasn't letting off, there was no avoiding the impact. So that first. What you said about Jet is exactly right. He was riding way over his head. He almost died in the whoops, the turn before that crash. And his impatience ruined Forkner's night and the weekends that followed. I will say that there is certainly something to be said for your history, right? Your track record. Friese's known to cross jump, take people out. He fights hard for position, which I respect. He doesn't let anybody go. I don't care if it's the points leader, the best in the class by far. It doesn't matter. He will race you. That's what he's supposed to do. He's a professional. The cross jumping and things like that, there's no excuse for that. And he's definitely made some bad decisions. So he's earned some of that criticism. So to your point, do we hold them to the same standard? Is each incident looked at separately? Or do we look at your body of work and then you get judged on all of the things you've done over your career instead of just the one? I'm not sure what the answer to that is. I will say that there's certainly some value in watching a rider's actions over time. And I think that you should definitely be getting talked to. Then you should be getting warned or put on like some type of probation. And then, whether it's fines or however they're coming at you. So I think it is a little different. And I think that Jet will learn, just like Christian has over his career, that you can slow down and let the race come to you. You have time typically. And even Christian at 30 years old or whatever he is, still showed some impatience in that incident with Friese. So we're still racers. There's adrenaline pumping through your veins. You want to win, and not all your decisions are going to be the best. So Anyway, thanks for the video. I appreciate guys sending those in. It's awesome, man. Thank you. Next one comes from Hunter. It says, hey, Ping, my name is Hunter. I'm also a firefighter. It's cool to see fellow firemen who love the sport. I don't run into that a lot where I'm from in Texas. I'm fairly new to the motocross, supercross world. Going to the races, I see some of the top guys like Cincerillo, Roxon, Tomac, etc. leave the semi and go to a motorhome between their motos. So my question is, are those personally bought or do the teams or sponsors provide them? Also, how do they get them from race to race? Because I don't figure the top level guys drive them from race to race. Thanks for the great videos, Hunter. So those have probably in the last 15 to 20 years become really popular. And it was sort of a necessity. Back when we had box fans, you know, a guy could, you kind of had some space to yourself. Even if you wanted to go to the front of the cab and turn the air on and sit in there and just get away from people, you could. Once we went to semis, yes, there's a lounge. Yes, there is lockers upstairs and you have a little space that's yours, but you got 3 other guys up there typically. And their trainer and their man friend and their girlfriend and the trucks end up like a zoo. There's so many people in there. It's super annoying. And if you want to just have a meal, cool off in some AC, watch race tapes, which a lot of them will do in the lounge as a group, but just sort of get away. You're so accessible in that truck. If anyone wants to find you, they come to the truck, you know, pop their head in the door and they can easily find you. Where you go to your motorhome, less people are going to come knock on that door and try to track you down in there. So also, especially at the Nationals, guys are sleeping in them the night before, so they don't have to get up at their hotel an extra hour and a half early, drive some crazy road and fight traffic all the way to where the Nationals are. They just go out there the night before and crash in them. And they're hiring somebody to drive these. A lot of times it'll be a relative or something like that, or a friend that they just pay to drive the motorhome race to race. So hope that answered your question. They're definitely not cheap, but I think for those guys making that kind of money, it's a really good investment. So anyway, that's that. Thank you so much, Hunter. I appreciate it. Last one comes from Franklin. It says, hey, Ping, I'm sure that you agree that the current tough block design can be improved while keeping the paying sponsors happy. I suggest, 1, instead of the foam blocks having square ends with a flat top, give them triangular ends with a pointy top like a pyramid with sponsor logos shown on each side. Have an inverted T-base where a ditch digging tool makes a trench for the T-base to rest, and then have the dirt backfilled to make them more secure. 3, have the foam cut cross-hatched a few inches to allow for chunks of foam to be ripped off if a footpeg snags it. And 4, have the covers perforated so that only a small piece of fabric ripped off instead of getting the whole thing all wrapped up in the rear end, causing a loss of rear brake or a DNF. That sucks to see a perfectly healthy rider and riding bike not finish the race. I think landing on them would be safer as they would move less and have less to snag the bike. Franklin. Well, thanks for the letter. I do agree. And I'm going to start by saying there's a lot of talk about tough blocks and all of the problems that come with those. But I came from an era of hay bales. And let me tell you, those are way worse. Okay. They do not move when you land on them. I broke a femur by landing on one. I've seen legs get broken, knees torn off or torn, ACL, ankles destroyed from snagging a hay bale because they are heavy, especially when they get wet, water trucks going by or hoses hitting them. They get really soggy and they turn into really, basically blocks of concrete. So it's a good step to go to tough blocks. Even in their current state, it's definitely an improvement. I think that the biggest issue with them is that the track builders think that they have to line every single inch of the track with these. Now, I understand they've got sponsors paying to have their logos on them, and so they want as many tough blocks as they can put out there. I get it. But, man, when you've got no place for, if these guys get bumped out of a turn, they got to go all the way down the straightaway before they can get back in usually. The whoops, they've got a hay bale on the upside, a hay bale on the downside. You literally can't get out of the whoops if you need to. If you get squirrely and you want to pop off, you can't. You're going to hit a tough block and crash. How about every other whoop on different side? How about, get rid of them on the landings of all jumps? That way, if for some reason you do cross rut and drift, you're not going to land on a tough block. I mean, there's just some really common sense thing that they could do that they don't. And that sucks. I wish that someone would listen to that. It's insane. the design could be changed a little bit. I think there is some type of anchor system. If you just had a little plastic disc on a rope that was anchored into the foam and that was buried down a little bit, that would hold it in place pretty well. I like your idea of perforating the covers so that they would tear a little bit easier. If a foot peg grabbed it, it would just rip through it. I don't think that would be adding a bunch of cost. You know, I'm sure they're considering, when you start talking about, you know, cross hatching the foam and stuff, you're going to add a lot of expense, and you know, they're running a business. But the perforation on the cover would be easy. Maybe even the design you're talking about, I don't know how much that would really help. Maybe a little. So great ideas. Maybe someone will hear this and listen, but I would not hold your breath, sir. Thank you for sending in your questions, everybody. I appreciate it. Always fun to do these. See you next week.